Hello, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to yet another episode of Vina Talks MD Life. It's a series, as you know, that we do exclusively for GAIN, which is the group for autism, insurance, investment, and neurodiversity. Now, today is a special recording. It's a special recording because of the person I'm hosting, but also because of an upcoming project that the person I'm hosting, whose name is Felix, and I will allow him to introduce himself in a second, and I are starting a new little podcast series, but more about that in a few more minutes. But we thought we will announce it, given that we have this amazing platform through GAIN, and given obviously that what we will be working on is very much relevant for you, our audience, most importantly, our community and ourselves, to try and showcase specific items within divergence, including which neurodivergence, out in the world of commerce, corporate, technology, finance, and continue filling in gaps as you see fit. But before we delve into this, the news, I'd like to introduce you, Felix. But obviously, typically, for those of you who've heard previous episodes of Vina Talks MD Life, this is what the guest does for themselves in their own life. I would only like very quickly to give a little shout out to the person who introduced Felix and I, and that's Roshni Paul, another individual member of GAIN, our little community. So thanks, Roshni. That's been absolutely incredible to meet more and more like-minded individuals like ourselves. And over to you now, Felix. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Vina. It's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, my name is Felix Trusler. I run an organization called Venture Cell. Venture Cell helps startups who have found their product fit scale their business. So we're a sales consultancy primarily. And yeah, it's great to discuss just all of these amazing issues and topics that we're going to be talking about today that I know you're inspired through.
Thank you so much. No, it's absolutely an incredible opportunity. We've actually spoken before about many things to do with neurodivergence. We're both openly neurodivergent. I've got ADHD. We'll come to you to sort of fill in the gaps when it comes to your own sort of neurodivergence. And we've spoken about what defines us, what really are the identity sort of elements that we very much sort of believe in. We've come to hone over the years. We've come sometimes to feel slightly challenged by our own selves, let alone the society. And we've also come to celebrate individuals who've seen us through our journey, like our mothers. We've often spoken about that. And I thought it would be an interesting, possibly rather fitting opportunity to start today's discussion, sharing a few words about the upcoming International Women's Day. I say upcoming because obviously we're always recording a few days before the day of release. And that will be on this occasion, Friday, the 8th of March, really coincided with International Women's Day. So can I have your few words about the topic?
Yeah, sure. So I've experienced International Women's Day for rather a long time. So International Women's Day is called in Russian 8 Marta, which means the 8th of March. And it's Международный день женщин, the International Women's Day. And it was a Soviet construct. So the story behind International Women's Day is that during the World Wars, a lot of men, virtually the entirety of the population, went off to fight, and unfortunately either died or got injured. And the people who were left to lead and pick up everything were the women. So it's a day where women are given the respect that they deserve for the role that they played in society during that time. Presents were given. I was living in Russia between 2006 and 2007. And it was a major day. It's a holiday there, full holiday. Everyone has it off. And then over the past 10 or so years, it's become a major feature of our calendar too. but very few people know about its origins.
That's incredible. I love these anecdotes. I love the stories, the history behind it all. And it's quite important for us to sort of reminisce and sort of share this kind of little knowledge that makes it all make sense. Many people might wonder, so why are we speaking about International Women's Day when you have a male and female speaking about it? Quite often they would expect, both females or the guests to be also female. I've always been an avid believer that it's so important to sort of discuss an issue that concerns you directly, in order to sort of share our experiences, speak about vulnerabilities, open up. But it's equally as important, and probably more important, to explore issues that might not directly, and in this case certainly don't directly concern the said individual. However, they can be a sponsor, they can be a supporter, they can be somebody who says, hold on a sec, there's a female talent in the workplace. Is it showcased enough? Is it celebrated? Do we understand women's issues or challenges? And why would we need to give the floor, to give opportunities to make sure that we represent women? I would like you to sort of give us a little bit of your opinion. Perhaps you want to share from your own lived experiences how female figures in your life have helped you, have nurtured you, have ultimately been the catalyst to allow you to thrive and to claim your true potential. Any such figures? Any such figures?
Well, absolutely. I was born in the 80s and came from rather what I might describe a nuclear family. Okay, it was one where my father went off and worked all hours, and my mother raised me, in essence. And my mother was a key educator. And when I was a youngster, a toddler, Mum could see that I wasn't quite developing in a typical manner as such. And she also noticed that my father actually also shared some of my traits, in the sense that neurodiversity ran in the family. But it wasn't really a common thing back in those days. No one really knew about the neurodivergent mindsets, and how to create the enabling strategies to be able to thrive. And so my mother searched out everything she could. She read books. She took me up to all over London to try and find someone to be able to enable this my dyspraxia, as it was termed, to be alleviated as such. And so she spent countless amounts of hours training, and we set up a homemade gym at home to enable better hand-eye coordination. We used to do times tables on the way to school every day. And we were really, everything was focused around doing it in an enjoyable manner as possible. And she gave everything for me and my education. And that just really stuck with me throughout my entire life, and actually informed most of my career as well. So my first company that I built up was called Dynamic Tuition. And it was all about study skills, learning to learn. And that was a direct result of my mother and my mother's tireless education.
How beautiful. This learning to learn. I mean, if you were to take a few seconds to just reflect on this, it's a process, learning to learn. And yes, because there's times when the society, your environment, however small or much more expanded it is, struggles to almost pigeonhole you. And let's face it, we tend to be slightly categorized from the academic attainment to obviously an annual review at work. There is always the kind of rankings, isn't it? So for those people who at some point, especially those ones who've been traumatized early on, been told that you cannot learn. No, you cannot. We can see learning to learn is such a powerful attitude development. And And I guess now, as we are in this beautiful journey, and we are on a journey, we are on a journey to neuro-inclusion, as we often say at Yale, it's very important to try and alter this behavioral stance of recruiters, HR, in order to appreciate that there's a learning to learn, and there's an attitude that basically takes over any skill set. Being able to enable people to thrive, being able to allow them to claim who they are, and develop this attitude towards learning, that nothing is beyond feasible. Everything is absolutely possible, so long as we put our hearts to it, and also so long as we have support. And that's exactly the support that your mother gave you, the support you needed to have at the time. If it wasn't for her, you might have found your way. Would it have taken it much longer? Would have been many more sacrifices involved? Could have been also that the barriers were too high to even get there without this aid, without this support. And can I say just how beautiful it is that you saw that as a paradigm, you saw that as the inspiration, and almost as a moral responsibility to be able to apply it for yourself in your own corporate entrepreneurial attempts in the future. And I do know a little bit more, obviously, given that we do have a great communication also as friends, and obviously now as partners in this initiative of the new series, that I know that you're still very much involved in education, since you have seen firsthand through your own lived experience how important education is. Would you like just to tell us a little bit more about education before I say well done? Because meanwhile, I realized it's not just Friday, International Women's Day, but of course, Sunday is Mother's Day. So, wow. Thanks for speaking about Mother's Day too.
Exactly. Well, education and transforming lives through education has been the red thread that has run through my career. Absolutely. Ranging from dynamic tuition days through to lynda.com, which is now called LinkedIn Learning, where I was one of the first people in Europe and helped grow that business. The defining element of that really was, more than anything else, the ability to democratize education, to be able to digitally enable and empower people with great skills, great knowledge. And that was a game changer, absolute game changer. And now what we're seeing with the advent of large language models is we're seeing the next great stage of education, because truly this is going to transform everything. What we're seeing at the moment is the ability to have your own AI-powered coach as such, where you can take a question and you can effectively use a Socratic means to be able to be coached through a particular subject. So that's the great democratizer. People are going to be able to learn really amazing skills super quickly. And that's very powerful, because previously what we'd seen is, great education was the preserve of the wealthy born in the right location. And that is no longer the case. And large language models are fundamentally going to change that. And we're seeing this great transformation, this great zeitgeist happening right here, right now. And I'm super excited for it.
So refreshing to hear somebody who actually speaks about it in such a positive light. And it's such zesty, I cannot wait, bring it on kind of way. I mean, as you said, LLMs and all of this already happening and already infiltrating our culture, our daily life. That's very important to not forget to put on the positive, the right attitude, not allow fear to get in there, not allow this kind of nebulous future not allow dystopian thoughts. And yes, we have all been in these series lectures and these series events whereby the potential sort of fascism of the very few having the tools of technology then in their hands, being the technologies, the developers, etc., could potentially lead to very tragic events for humankind. However, what we need to always focus exactly what you said, that if we are all, I guess, strongly aware of its benefits, then we have every right to want to be involved. And I guess getting involved and getting to become part of this interaction is the minimum, however, so powerful intervention we can allow ourselves. And often enough, speaking to friends, they say, but we're just mere individuals. How powerful are we? Well, extremely powerful is my short answer, so long as we appreciate and we're conscious that this evolution needs humans to take place. If we already replace ourselves and sort of stay on the side, thinking that we don't quite understand what an element, speaking as a neurodivergent individual, how much of acronyms do we have to sort of, live with, this fatigue of acronyms? Let's break it down. Let's speak in simple language. It's exactly what you just said. We try to democratize accessibility to knowledge. And by making it accessible, we try to also share, because knowledge that we just retain for ourselves individually is really redundant knowledge. It's all about the sharing and how you take something to allow it to evolve. And there, without sort of wanting to make it a monologue, by no means, still I see a common thread in what you said, the education, the evolutionary sort of pressures, the fact that we need to all sort of be involved. Exactly the same thing that we expect people to do for neuroinclusion. Neuroinclusion cannot happen because we tell a leader or we tell a workplace, just get on and here's the pamphlet, here's the papyrus, if you will, of all the do's and the don'ts. Just go and implement them, because again, you need your human capital, right? Right?
Absolutely. And I feel when we put these tasks to people, they don't quite necessarily always respond in the manner that they should be responding. They overthink it. And the principle that I would like to put out there in the workplace that I think is really, really important is just be nice. As long as we are kind, open, vulnerable individuals who recognize that our position is irrelevant, doesn't matter whether you're who you are in an organization, we're all doing this for the right reason. We spend, most of a majority of our waking life at work, and we need to have that North Star of just being nice and kind across everyone. And that enables so much. So no, please don't. Neurodivergent policies, no, we don't want them, quite frankly. And I know I'm speaking for a very wide-ranging community, but it's just not necessary, really. And Vina, I would have thought that you also probably think in quite a similar manner on that one.
Thanks for passing it on to me. I mean, look, for me, very important is to, again, as you said it already, empower the individual, empower people to be whoever they want to be, so long as we all share principles that basically treat each other with respect. And again, we want to be respectfully curious. I'd like to get to know you better, but I'd like to get to know you better beyond whatever bias I carry, and obviously whatever stereotypical conclusions one can easily jump to. I can appreciate that possibly jumping into some wide-reaching generic sort of conclusions might be easier for people to do, sparing time, optimizing the process. However, you do miss out in this. You do miss out getting to know people. And really, the other day, I was listening to, it was a Greek bank, actually, believe it or not, and they said, our most important currency is trust. And I thought, that's interesting. Yeah, actually, our greatest currency is not any dollar or British pound, with apologies to anybody involved in, obviously, Bank of England, etc., and the Federal Bank. But it's really trust. It's trusting one another. And we see it as salespeople, ultimately. We see that daily. It's the people who believe in what you represent. It's people who can actually see your product, your services, really defining who you are. You cannot be selling something that you don't possess as being your lifestyle or as being the way that I cannot be selling LLMs if I don't know how to engage, for instance. It's as simple as that. So very important to empower people, very important to trust people. And I find often, and probably this is a bridge, I guess, which is very natural, and ultimately that's the way and the reason we've both decided to join forces and do that. I find that the conduit in this circumstance is leadership that's allowed to be not necessarily linear, not necessarily here's the Oxbridge sort of model. Nothing wrong with that per se, but there's so many other people out there who haven't gone into the traditional hierarchy of education. As we now have seen recently, the Guardian's report on so many people, with the blessing of the parents or the guardians, coming out of the formalized educational system simply because they don't any longer encounter the gifts of curiosity, critical thinking, creativity. And the thinking, if I can get that by being more entrepreneurial or exercising my rights, being the citizen of the world and having this democratized accessibility to data and technology, why don't I enable all these fantastic virtues to be self-developed, something I can do for myself? I don't need the teacher. What I'm trying to say with that is leadership should be able to showcase these varying behaviors. And I find that unless we give permission to our leaders, not much will be able to happen in a sustainable manner. I leave the rest to you, and I suppose the rest means your own opinion.
Completely, but bringing it back to what you were talking about earlier around currency and money. Interesting about that, because that's also a trust-based system. If you look at any note, it says, "I promise to bear the owner the sum of." So that's a reference to when we left the gold standard, and cash is just a promissory note. So it's a trust-based system. So everything works on trust. Absolutely everything works on trust in life. And that's really, really important. And yes, we entrust the leaders of our organizations to make the right decisions for us and the company. But it's got to be dual. It has to be dual. No, if you're not trusting your employees and you're not treating them right, you're not doing your job as a leader. And so everything has to be done for the good of the people of the organization, the good of the organization itself, and the good of the people who are who partner with the organization, so the customers or the partners, however you like to term them. It's a very much a three-way motion in that. And also, there's a fourth means, which is the societal good. I think what we're seeing is, in a macroeconomic sense, it's the organizations who are looking to do good for society, the greater good, that are thriving, because mission-based organizations, community-focused organizations tap into the emotions of people, and therefore, they are looked at as an indispensable. We need as a society, as organizations, as people, to be helping to lift others up, to be able to support the communities, because we are looking out at the political landscape at the moment, and we're seeing an ever more divided political landscape with everything that's going on. We don't need to go through it on this conversation, but everyone knows there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not particularly great at the moment. So we have this onus. We have this onus to help support one another, and that goes at every single level, from corporate to personal to your day-to-day life, everything like that. And so, yeah, it's a full-based trust system, and it comes back to that great principle of community, kindness, and trust.
Trust, absolutely, to get the engagement, and please do not expect things to happen literally at your doorstep to take action. Just be, again, the citizen of the world that the world expects of you. We're all on the same planet. We should all be able to contribute and feel suitably energized and I guess responsible enough, accountable enough to maintain this the peace, which, as you said, we do not have, and we very much consciously, I'd argue, don't want to go down speaking about it because it's depressing us enough. We are suitably going through trying to process it, try to contribute our own voices into a more commonsensical decision making. And in doing so, we're trying to lift others, and we're trying to give people avenues and options to share, to communicate, and perhaps break some silos, some taboos. You've spoken about leadership. Having leaders who care, having leaders who are equally humane, is so important because people can reflect, people can have the mirror. For those people who'd like to get promoted, go up the hierarchy stairs, they need to see people who represent them, who share the same values, so that it makes sense for them to attribute the great skill sets, their experiences, the knowledge, the degrees, and indeed, as we said earlier, their attitudes, to be one of them. What you see above, if it doesn't resonate, if what you see is not really one of you who you would like to be or to become part of the same community, you would never give your extra. This marginal increase of productivity you will not give because you don't want it to go in the wrong hands. I'm not suggesting that obviously those wrong hands exist throughout, but there's definitely a pressing urgency about this good citizenship. We're speaking about the regenerational values, community values. We're speaking about the cyclical sort of return, the 5 R's, the kind of bringing things in that can have a long-lasting impact. They don't go, if we feel just on purpose and then die away. We cannot afford this. We have to reverse something that goes across the environmental damage down to societal sort of suffering and demise of certain basic values of humankind. In order to rescue that, we need to be able to empower, as much as we empower, and we've said it extensively, the individuals to take action, so do occasionally need the leaders who are probably sick and tired and completely fatigued and uninspired for themselves being one of the same kind, all homogenized. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with the new series, which is not going to replace Vina Talks ND Live. Vina Talks ND Live, as in ND meaning neurodivergent, it's still showcasing the individuals, showcases the thought leadership, showcases these glorious people who try to contribute their own stories, their own vulnerabilities in order to create change for everybody, including themselves. The new series, The Divergent Leader, it takes the notion of neurodivergence and tries to extrapolate it into something much more generic, much more wide, much more, if you will, intersectional. It talks about people who haven't had any formal education, and yet they found themselves, by working hard, by believing in the mission, up into a stratospheric incline in leadership. There's people from not particularly privileged socioeconomic backgrounds. It's people of different ethnic minorities with long engaged on a discussion about immigration, for instance. So do we celebrate, do we showcase these people? And within that, there's the leaders who are neurodivergent, but perhaps they've had the entire career by not disclosing or by masking, thinking that, well, I cannot see anyone like me around the board of management. I don't see one like me in the governance of X FTSE 100 company. How can we break this mold, and how can we unveil and path process wise, but also what can we do about it now? And see, yeah, and you said it earlier, the societal values of empowering those people, of gaining accountability. I'm sure you have your own sort of take on this project, and please share that with us. I would very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate it.
So it's very much about people who, and you don't have to be neurodivergent to be divergent. This is showcasing those leaders who have taken alternative paths to leadership. Often there have been societal hurdles which they've had to overcome. There's often been challenges around the mold. There are many industries which are quite tight fit, shall we say, where they historically have had people who are of from a particular background, or from a particular of a particular gender, of a particular societal construct, and we are looking at those people who haven't been from those typical areas, and we're showcasing their stories, what makes them tick, why they've been on this journey, how they've overcome those hurdles, and fundamentally how their values have contributed to the change that they've enabled. And that's really important for us and for this podcast. And we want it to be entertaining. We want it to be actionable, because I think it's really important to have something where you can actively learn from conversations. And fundamentally, as I said, the red thread that's run through my career has been transformational learning. And it would only be right for a podcast that we co-hosted to also have that element to it. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think we're gonna have a ball, and you're gonna hear the stories of some amazing people come through. We're gonna have some giggles, and yeah, it will be coming out soon, and you'll be seeing the teaser content in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. And that's all down to organizations and communities like GAIN, the Group for Autism, Insurance, Investment and Neurodiversity, to enable the coming together of individuals like us, and deciding that they have so many things in common that it would be a shame to let go and not utilize this content, and not utilize it in order to inspire others, give the chance to the guests also to process and to reflect upon themselves, because in our very busy, non-stop pace, especially for those who work in the City of London, and anybody who actually works anywhere, running family, having habits or little pastimes, sort of leisure activities that they feel very much invested in, very little time left, self-reflect, grow, to evaluate your next steps, to have a plan to enjoy the remaining sort of duration of our journey, and to understand whether the X journey actually fits you more than the Y. I'm not saying, put it on the scales and sort of start engaging with regrets or any decision making in a neural networks kind of way. God forbid. But I'm actually saying, let's give ourselves the time, the element that's necessary to create a little bit of liberty, permission to be, becoming more unapologetic about what gets us to be slightly non-linear. And by being non-linear, perhaps you get to enjoy life slightly more, and perhaps you also get to achieve what you said earlier, lift others on the way. And that would be really beautiful to achieve. So thank you very much for having this discussion with me today. Thank you very much for being supporter to people's kindness, being a live example of this. There's such a value in the small behavioral sort of virtues, and we should all remind ourselves and give each other a pat on the shoulder for being good people and really ultimately want to enable more of this goodness. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will be sharing more about the the divergent leader. There we go, you see. I'm trying to process it myself. So thank you very much, Felix.
Thank you, Vina. Looking forward to it.